business arising from the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. We'll move to city manager's report. Bob?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two items for council's consideration and direction tonight. The first one is Route 11 lease agreement. And in the spring of 2017, the city received a request from Route 11 to create an arts center as a nonprofit organization designed to promote and foster a stronger arts and cultural scene in the community. On May 26th of 2017, the city did approve the request to utilize the old library building for an arts center and entered into a 2-year agreement. On March 14th, I met with Tracy Bushler to discuss the lease agreement between the city and Route 11 for the property at 101 Clawson Street. At the meeting, Route 11 wished to request the City Council to consider renewing the lease and waiving the lease fee of $12,000 per year. Council did ask for some further information from Route 11 as to what the funds would be that they would save would be used for, and that's been provided to Council. There was 4 options presented in the report. The Council accept the proposal and lease agreement between the city and Route 11. And it be amended to waive the lease fees in the amount of $12,000 and further the lease be renewed for a 3-year term from 2020 to 2022, ending December 31st of 22. Option 2 was Council decline the proposal and the lease agreement remain unchanged and be renewed for an additional 3 years. Option 3 was the Council provide a counter lease agreement for consideration at a rate of $280 per month to help offset the cost of the utilities for the portion of building occupied as the arts cooperative, or $450 per month to cover the cost of utilities and building maintenance. And then the 4th option was any other option Council may wish to consider, which may include representation on the Route 11 Board of Directors. And there's a recommendation from administration that the proposal to renew a lease agreement between City and Route 11 Arts Cooperative be amended to waive lease fees in the amount of $12,000, and further the lease be renewed for a 3-year term for the years 2020 to 2022.
Okay, so we have a recommendation in front of us. Does anyone want to put a motion to that one? Gary? Do we have a seconder?
I'll make the motion to renew a lease agreement between the City of Warman and Rout 11 Cooperative to be amended to waive the lease fees in the amount of $12,000, and further that the lease be renewed for a 3-year period for the years 2020 to 2022, ending in December 31st, 2022.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Schramm, can we open the floor for discussion now? Richard? Richard, you're muted. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Spence. Certainly, this year, earlier today, I certainly shared some of my concerns with the motion there as presented. With this here, I do feel that there's certainly some challenges with that in terms of being transparent with the rental. Certainly with this here, we do have other nonprofit organizations that we do have rental agreements with. And with this year, we don't go back to, reduce those down to either zero or to, just the operating costs. So I'm not in support of the motion as presented. I would personally like to, throw out the consideration for council and for administration there, where the $12,000 annual rent be maintained, but that money be directed to a discretionary reserve to support the city-sponsored events, in that partnership with Route 11 Arts Council for the 3 years. With this year, I know we did get some documentation saying that that Route 11 is willing to have a representative of council be a part of their board, and this year I think that would be something where we could certainly build together as a partnership. And still maintain fairness with all of the other nonprofit organizations that we do have lease agreements with, and also the ones that do rent other facilities on an hourly or even daily basis. So for me, for transparency and fairness, that's how I would like to see it, is that discretionary reserve set up. And with this here, the programs, that have been outlined to basically draw down from that fund.
Okay, do we have other comments? Gary?
I guess I'd like to start out by saying I know we're all fully supportive of the arts in Warman, and I think it's something that makes Warman unique. We're happy that Warman was the choice of the art gallery in our area, and I guess looking at some of the things that they've initiated, and that we've had some partnerships with our recreation already, but just some of the things that have started, they're an established board, but it's also looking at their sources of income are limited, knowing that on a constant basis they're always concerned about the month-to-month rent. I guess I just look at it as a minimal investment in our arts and culture that we have done in many other areas. Because I mean, the youth, we have created many different recreational aspects throughout our community for the youth, and the seniors also too, whether it's walking paths or whatever it might be. But one of the areas that we really haven't stepped up on is the arts, and I guess it's a minimal investment, and I'm not questioning everybody I know was on side with that aspect of it, but it's just knowing that a nonprofit challenge is always challenged on where are they going to get their money month to month to be able to pay for that, let alone initiate new ideas that we've already seen them take some of that and made it happen. So I guess I'm in support of this the way it is. I mean, I'd be willing to look at other aspects, but I'd like to see this to go to a vote first.
Okay. Any other comments?
Trevor Peterson does have his hand up.
Trevor?
Yeah. Of
Oh.
this, I'm not in favor of this either. I really think that we need to have some more discussion and maybe even a meeting with Tracy and other board. I don't know what avenues they've undergone for fundraising, whether there is opportunities there or whether they've exhausted them all. I don't know. I agree with Gary. We're all in favor of the arts. I just think that this does seem a lot rushed, and I'm not in favor of making a decision like this.
Okay. Any other comments? No?
Richard Beck has his hand up again.
Okay, Richard?
Yeah, thank you very much. Certainly with this year, like there again, just to reiterate, with this year, I'm not trying to set my sights on Route 11. With this year, I'm just looking at fairness across the board, where all of our rentals, in that whenever they do, certainly pay all of their operating, and because like there again, there's a source of revenue that is attached to this. This is $12,000 that we have accounted for in our 2020 budget. From that, we do have the cost of operating. So the maintenance of the building, and also with this year, we talk about asset management as being a prudent decision, and something that that we do basically show across all of our public run facilities. And by reducing that rent down to zero, it negates all of the hard work and serious effort that we've put in to fundamentals, and that kind of thing. So with this year, I definitely support the maintenance of the of the rental. Further to the point of their revenues, one thing that was noted in their auditor's report was with this year that, that there is the possibility that not all revenues have been reported accurately. So, with this year, certainly looking at the documentation that we have, there's certainly a few things that I do need to be sure of when we say, hey, they're going to have problems meeting their rents. So I do feel that there is further information that could be derived to share around council, and with this year, there again, this is a renter that is in our current facility. I don't see the need to rush this. We do have some time to turn around and be a little bit more wholesome in the consideration here. Also, one other point that I'd like to make is with this here, when you talk about the city not doing enough for our arts, I will maintain that this current lease is for 2,600 square feet, and their payment on that is currently set at that $1,000 per month. So I mean that's $2.60 per square foot. That is an absolutely manageable rate for the space that's there. And with this here, at the time that we did sign this agreement, we did have another competing offer where we could have drawn much more revenue, and certainly let's say had the opportunity to to be able to fund arts in a much different manner. But this is what Route 11 had really wanted. As a city, as a council, we all seen the benefit that Route 11 was going to bring, and certainly the opportunities for partnerships around that. And with this year, we have good partners at the table. I think we do need to stay to our fundamentals, and therefore I am not in favor of changing the lease rate, at least down to 0 anyways.
Okay, any other comments? Okay,
Brian has his hand up here, sorry.
okay, Brian?
I agree. I agree, Gary, that, it's not a huge investment to support, but I would feel better if we at least covered the city's cost, the opportunity costs of leasing that facility out to another business. As we've seen, I don't think we're going to get, I don't think we're missing out a lot there. And I think when you consider that what we're gaining is the opportunity for something like, an arts community like that to grow, I would be okay, but I would like to see us at least cover our costs.
Okay. Other comments? Kendall?
I've pretty much made my my position clear on email, so I will reiterate it. I support Gary. I think that we need to look at our master plan and follow it through. We did pass it. In there, it talks about supporting those groups that are in conjunction with what we are doing in recreation. And in there, talks about how that we are to support those types of groups and what the cost would be. I think that in that, it talks about the funding structure is part of the existing budget. So if we're taking $12,000 out of the budget, then we're taking it out, then we need to show where that's going to come from. So to me, that would come from administration showing us where for this year that $12,000 is going to where we're going to get it from, because we've made accountable to that. But to me, we have to follow through. It's following through with what we've already passed at a master plan level. And I'm for the arts. I'm for Route 11. But I think that we have to follow through with those things that we've already passed. And to me, this is how that comes across on a street level how we put it together. So to me, if administration says this is it, then I'm for administration. And I agree with Gary. I think we need to support Route 11.
Okay, any other comments? Kevin?
Sorry, just had to get unmuted. I do think we have to be very, very cautious, though, with whatever decision we do make here. Because, you know, yes, we're talking about Route 11, we're talking about the arts portion, but we have a whole bunch of different, you know, utilizers of other facilities that are also either arts or culturally based or sport based that pay a lot of fees for rental space. And like I said, we've got to be cautious in the sense of whatever we decide here, you know, could very well become a model that other groups are going to look to and request something similar.
Okay, thank you. Kendall?
I just want to respond to that, and that is I totally agree that there is a precedence here. So to me, there needs to be some kind of guidelines or policy on how the master plan is followed through. So I'm in agree with you, Kevin, that we have to be careful. We don't have those guidelines or policies or procedures, however you want to say that word, but we still, to me, have to follow through with the master plan. So that's what we have, and I'm just following that through to that degree.
So Kendall, I'm just going to ask you a question. So are you saying that we need to have the policies in place before we make this decision?
I think that would be wise,
Okay.
because we are going to see other people wanting to have the same thing of everybody wants to be fair. But I think that would be wise in talking about the future. So in one of my things on the email, I did say that maybe we should make this a short-term thing so that those types of things can be looked at and maybe worked out with administration. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let everybody else say their words.
Okay, so I think, is everybody good? Are we ready to go to a vote on this particular recommendation? Okay, so
Mayor
Okay.
Spence, this is Richard Rebecca. If I could just bring up one more point. You know, certainly with talking about the recreation master plan, and I think I'd like to actually address this here through to administration. So if Bob could perhaps answer this in terms of what his recommendation was. With this here, with our recreation master plan, it does show on page 36 of that plan that our partnerships in that whatever would come at a cost of $0. This is not a cost of $0. This is a cost of $12,000 to our 2020 budget. And to me, there again, you know, like how I see this is I see our relationship with Route 11 as one piece of the arts puzzle that you know that we have together, and even under the whole recreation spectrum. And that piece of the puzzle with what's being presented here is not fitting into place where it fits easily. We're trying to hammer this in, and it's rushed and it's ad hoc, and I don't understand how this ties in with our recreation master plan when the cost isn't $0 to maintain this partnership. It's actually costing us at that cost of $12,000.
Okay, we've all had a chance to talk to this now. So we do have a recommendation, option 1 on the table. By a show of hands, all in favor?
If we're actually going to vote, Mayor Spence, I would like to ask that this be a recorded vote.
Okay. Do you have that, Dawn? Okay, here we go. So if you're in favor, put your hands up. So I can't see all the screens. So we have Kendall and Gary.
Yep, Kendall and Gary in favor.
Okay, opposed?
Aye.
Brian, Richard, Trevor, Kevin, and Mayor Spence.
Okay, so that one's defeated. Do we want to entertain another option, or do we want this to go back for further policy building? What are we thinking?
Mayor Spence, if I could, this is Richard Beck. With this year, I would like to ask, with this year, you know, like there again, you know, with the thought of the discretionary reserve being set up, I don't know, with this year, we didn't really get much input on that. So I would like to know if that would be a option, you know, to certainly hit the floor. If so, I would be prepared to make a motion very similar to the one that I had circulated earlier this morning, and I could read that out for you.
Well, I guess the only thing, Richard, is that we have these 4 options in front of us, and that option, I think if you're going to add an additional option, I would rather see this tabled.
Okay.
So that we can consider it, unless somebody wants to make another motion to any of the other options. Okay, so then we'll table this, and Richard, you can do your homework with the other option and it'll come back to us. Are we good with that?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Manager Smith, next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to, before we leave that, I just from a governance perspective, and I'll refer to the city clerk. So do we need a motion to refer, or?
Yes, we should have a motion to defer this topic to a later date.
Okay, who's going to make that motion? Richard?
Yeah, Richard,
Okay.
I would like to motion that we defer the Route 11 issue to a subsequent meeting into the future.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Kevin? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, Manager Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item I have is another lease agreement with the Prairie Sky School Division, or Prairie Spirit School Division, regarding Tradition School. Everybody, we discussed this at Committee of the Whole last week, and everybody has a copy of the agreement. So the recommendation is the agreement for the lease of the land on which the Tradition School has been constructed be entered into between the Prairie Spirit School Division and the City of Warman, and further the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the agreement.
Okay, so do we have a motion out there? I don't see any hands.
Kendall has his hand up.
Councillor Tram, do we have a seconder?
I move that the agreement for the lease of the land on which the Tradition School has been constructed be entered into between Prairie Spirit School Division and the City of Warman, and further the Mayor and City Clerk to be authorized to sign the agreement. So moved.
Sorry, you guys, I always get ahead of myself. A seconder. Councillor Jones, is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor. Oops. Was there a comment, Councillor Peterson?
Yes, I can't see the agenda right now, but I just wanted to ask Manager Smith if one thing I'd mentioned at the Committee of the Whole was that since we had agreed to a 40-year term, is this dated as of the August when it was turned over, so that there's 38 years left, or is this dated as of now?
It'll be dated as what it has in the agreement. So I think
Which is?
I don't. If we come back to that in just a second, I'll look it up. I can't see on my screen.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Beck?
Yeah, certainly this year, if the agreement, and there again, like I don't have it right in front of me, I was just clicking on it just to see if I could bring it up to find it real quick. With this year, if it does, show in there as in 40 years with today's date and whatnot, is this something that could be retrofit or let's say retroactively in effect to the date that it was turned over, and therefore it would still read for 40 years? There would only be 38 years left on the effective contract.
Or Manager Smith, and Manager Smith, some people are having problems hearing you.
Cutting in and out.
Okay, I apologize about that. I'm not sure what the issue would be. I'll go back to an email from the Prairie Spirit School Division, and we had asked them some questions that were asked. The council asked us to inquire about, which one was that the one that Councillor Peterson had just suggested, and these have been forwarded to council. And the question that we submitted was, there was some concern with the initial term. We understand this has been outstanding, but their question was, should this term not be from the current date or for 38 years rather than the 40 years to better reflect the current timelines? That's the question we asked them. I think that's the question that Councillor Peterson had just asked. The answer from the school division was the term would need to be the same for the initial term. Other agreements with cities related to P3 school leases have been signed for the full term.
Okay, so any other questions?
Councillor Peterson has his hand up.
Trevor?
Well, the problem is, Manager Smith, though, is that the other places sign those agreements for the full term at the time of the turnover. That wasn't done, so this is a different situation. So it either needs to be backdated to August of 2018 to reflect when the turnover occurred, so that there's 38 years remaining, or there needs to be as of this date with 38 years remaining on the term to reflect what the initial memorandum of understanding was.
Councillor Tully?
Yeah, just, I don't know if this is going to be a little bit of a help or not, but the way the agreement reads, when you look at, I believe it's paragraph 2.1, at 2.1, it refers to the commencement date. And when I do a search of the entire document, there is nowhere that actually defines what the commencement date is. And I think that's problematic for the conversation that we're having right now, because what is the commencement date? And so I think that might actually, if there's a definition of that commencement date within the agreement, that may at least shed some light or answer possibly Councillor Peterson's question and concern.
I'm just wondering if I think I saw Brad Toth was our planning manager, was on this Zoom meeting as well. And I know
Yes.
Brad's had several conversations regarding this and the agreement. So I'll maybe defer to some of what you're asking to him to try answer.
Thank you. I believe the commencement date would be the date that is basically worth the signature. So even though we haven't signed the agreement and it hasn't necessarily been in effect since 2 years ago, I'd suggest that, best practice and what we've been doing has been basically in line with the agreement. So I think my recommendation would be that council pass it and it's basically backdated for when it should have been signed initially, if that makes sense.
Okay, is there a problem doing that with the document we have in front of us? Is it just adding a date?
I think it would just be backdating it in terms of like when the document's actually executed or signed, where at the bottom above the signatures where it's dated this day of.
Okay. So does that solve the problem, Councillor Peterson?
Rick has his hand up here, and Peterson gave you a thumbs up.
Okay. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, so, certainly with this here, quite honestly, the commencement date's actually not very clear at all. Where it says in 2.1, the commencement date, it says it's basically dependent on paragraph 1.1, where it is entirely, dependent upon the approving authority. So in this case here, we are not a approving authority ourselves. So this here, I think, would fall back to the to the municipal board to make that decision. With this, I'm like I don't know what the ramifications would be for let's say approving it, let's say as it is right now, versus perhaps getting that established first, and there again this year coming back to a later meeting. Okay,
so I guess we do have a motion on the floor to approve it, and I guess we would be adding the date, the back date on the bottom. Are we in, by a show of hands, are we in favor of that? If you are, put your hands up. Okay, so we have, okay, so then it's passed. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving down to City Clerk.
City Clerk. Okay. So at our regular meeting of council, turn my camera on here. I did bring to you a couple of bylaws regarding the 2020 election. One is the automated vote tabulating equipment bylaw, which runs through basically how we're going to use the different ballots that we're going to be using, and as well as the processes of casting votes and counting votes with the tabulating machines. So that has a motion there to do all 3 readings of the bylaw at this regular meeting of council is my recommendation.
Okay, so that's going to be fun doing it this way. So I will definitely need some help there, Dawn, because I can't see all the faces.
Okay, Richard has
so
it up right now.
Okay, so Richard.
Make the motion as presented here. So the motion being that bylaw 2020-01, the automated vote tabulating bylaw. This bylaw includes the provisions respecting the form of ballot and the procedure for voting and for vote counting with the use of automated vote tabulating equipment to be read a first time.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Jones? And is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All hands up.
Okay. Okay, motion for second reading.
Brian Jones has his hand up.
Brian? Can't hear you.
Make the motion that bylaw 2020-01 be read a second time.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Philipchuk? Are we all in favor? Okay, thank you. And third and final reading?
Councillor Peterson put his hand up.
Okay, Trevor?
Point of order, Your Worship. Don't you ask for a third reading?
Sorry.
Yes, we do. So to have third reading, Trevor or Councillor Schramm?
Yes.
I move that we have a third reading at this council meeting.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Peterson, all in favor? And third and final reading. Councillor Councillor Schramm.
I move that bylaw 2020-01, the automated vote tabulating bylaw. This bylaw includes the procedures for voting and for vote counting with the use of automated vote tabulating equipment, be read a third and final time and now be adopted and signed by the mayor and city clerk. I so move.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tootley? And is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Next item.
The next item is the mail-in ballot bylaw. At the committee of the whole, there were some questions from council regarding the costs of doing the mail-in ballots. I sent it out to the City Clerks Association, and even with as busy as everybody has been, they all got back to me. Majority has said that there is very little additional costs when it comes to doing the mail-in ballots. It's more time than it is cost. It's a couple extra envelopes. Majority of them found that people will fill out their ballots right there at that time and put them in the sealed envelopes and hand them back to be put into the count or into the ballot. So the costs basically, I guess, won't be any much additional to what is there already. And my recommendation was to do all 3 readings of the mail-in ballot bylaw at this regular meeting of council.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Gary has his hand up here.
Okay, Councillor Filchuk.
My mic.
There we go.
I'd like to make the motion that bylaw 2020-01, the automated vote tabulation bylaw. This bylaw includes provision respecting the form of ballots and procedures for voting and for vote counting, use of automated vote, be read a first time.
Do we have a seconder?
Excuse me. Like, isn't that the motion that we did already? We're looking for 2020-02.
Yeah.
There you go.
I need to do that over again. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Okay, that's all right. I just couldn't pick up the thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Where are we here?
Here it is. Okay, the bylaw 2020-02, the mail-in ballot bylaw, be read for a first time. The purpose of this bylaw is to establish a mail-in ballot voting system for the purpose of receiving ballots in an election. Sorry about that.
Good catch, Richard. Okay, seconder.
Richard has his.
Councillor Beck. Any discussion?
Just one question to be put out there with this here. For anything that we like, would we be required to actually mail these out to individuals? And is there any onus or responsibility on us if it's not received by them?
They give us all the information in there's one of the forms here that they fill out that would give us an address that we would use to mail it out to them. If they did not receive it, that's on them. We could do registered mail that they sign for it, but it's, as long as they provided the right address, then we are to mail it to that address.
Okay.
Same with mailing it in. It has to be in before polls close on election day to be counted. Otherwise, it's considered a spoiled ballot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Hands all up.
Okay, good, thank you. Second reading. Councillor Jones.
I'll make the motion that bylaw 2020-02 be read a second time.
Seconder.
Schramm and Kevin Tooley both have their hands up.
Okay, Councillor Tooley. Is there any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Hands
Okay,
all
to
up.
have 3 readings at this meeting. Councillor Filchuk.
I make the motion that bylaw 2020-02, that there be 3 readings at this meeting.
Seconder. Not seeing anybody.
Brian, Peterson, Tooley, Schramm all have their hands up.
Okay, Counselor Jones, all in favor? Third and final reading?
Richard Beck.
Counselor Keeley?
So this is Councillor Beck. I would like to make the motion that bylaw 2020-02, the mail-in ballot bylaw. This bylaw is to establish a mail-in ballot voting system for the purpose of receiving ballots in a election, be read a third time and now be adopted and signed by mayor and city clerk.
Okay, seconder, Counselor Schramm? Okay, is there any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
My third piece of business for tonight is a recommendation to approve maintaining the city clerk as a returning officer for the city of Warman for the 2020 election.
Okay, who wants to make that motion? Counselor Felchuk?
I'd like to make the motion that council approve maintaining the city clerk as returning officer for the city of Warman.
Seconder? Counselor Schramm? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay,
And that's it for me. Thanks, guys.
okay, moving to finance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I have for you tonight is the 10-year capital plan. Administration has prepared a 10-year capital plan complete with funding. This 10-year plan will aid the city in forecasting future needs and place a greater focus on long-term planning. Administration has prepared an attached 10-year capital plan, which does require a 1% tax increase per year beginning in 2021. In order to maintain this is required in order to maintain current service levels. In recognizing the above, please note that this 10-year capital plan is not binding, but rather a projection of possible future needs. Administration will, with presentation of the capital budget for the subsequent year each fall, will continue to present a prioritized capital budget in conjunction with the operating budget for council's approval. The recommendation is that the 2020 to 2030 10-year capital plan be adopted at this regular meeting of council.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? And I can't see it. I don't see you at all. Okay,
Richard Beck has his hand raised.
Counselor Beck?
Thank you. Yeah, so I would like to make the motion to adopt the 2020 to 2030 10-year capital plan as a projection of future needs, long-term financial planning document.
Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Schramm has his hand up.
Counselor Schramm? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next item I have is a district board of revision. The city of Warman is required to appoint a representative to serve as the city's board of revision every year. These services are required to handle any appeals relating to property assessments throughout the city. The city of Warman utilized Furlong Associates last year, and we're happy with their level of communication as well as their timeliness of results. So the recommendation is that Timothy Furlong and Associates be contracted to provide the Board of Revision services for the City of Warman Municipal Board for 2020 at this regular meeting of council.
Okay, who's prepared to make that resolution?
Councillor Philipchuk and Tooley have their hands up.
Okay, Counselor Felchuk.
I'd like to make the motion that Timothy Furlong and Associates be contracted to provide Board of Revision services for the City of Warman Municipal Board for 2020, and further appoint the following: Timothy Furlong, Kirby Fesser, and Glenn Nurrit as Board of Revision members, as well as Mike Limon-Moore as the Board of Revision Secretary.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Who's seconding that?
Kevin Tooley has his hand up.
Okay, Counselor Tooley. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, next item.
The next item I have is a quarterly financial update. Please find included in attachment B the quarterly financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2019. Please also find attached in Appendix C the supplemental schedules for this same period. Within the supplemental schedules are additional schedules which provide additional information for council expenses. Financial notes to the quarterly reports are also included in Appendix B. Please keep in mind that final adjustments, allocations, and accruals are ongoing with the formal drafting of our 2019 financial statements. However, from review of the quarterly financial report, overall operations of the city are on budget. Administration recommends that the December 31st, 2019 quarterly financial report be accepted at this regular meeting of council.
Okay, do we have a mover there? Councillor Jones?
Make the motion to adopt the 2020 to endorse the December 31st, 2019 quarterly financial report as presented.
A seconder? Councillor Tully? Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Next item.
The next item I have is a capital project budget report. You can see each capital project for 2019 laid out per department in the appendices. Administration recommends that the December 31st, 2019 capital budget report be approved at this regular meeting of council.
Okay, who's going to do that?
Councillor Schramm has his hand up.
Okay, Councillor Schramm.
I move to adopt the right. I move that the December 31st, 2019 capital project budget report be approved as presented.
Seconder? Councillor Jones? All in favor, or any discussion first? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Next item.
And the last item I have is with regards to property taxes and utilities with this COVID-19.
Well, there's two items, right?
Three.
Oh, one item, two motions.
Oh,
Okay.
two. Yeah, right.
Am I good?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Administration has concerns for some residents with regards to the property tax and utility payments during this COVID-19 pandemic period. Administration has reminded property owners that they have until September 1st to pay their 2020 property taxes without incurring any interest, and to please keep in mind that the current year levy is not considered in arrears until December 31st. TIPS and PAP can be stopped given at least 10 days business notice prior to the next withdrawal date. Residents can stop their TIPS and PAP payments and then rejoin again in the future. In order to assist our community with possible financial difficulties during this time, administration has the below recommendation. Please be advised that the first recommendation will result in an insignificant revenue loss to the city of approximately $1,300 to $1,500 a month. It is hard to attach a dollar amount to the second portion of the recommendation, but at $40 per account for disconnect and reconnect, we would not expect that to be significant either. Administration recommends that council approve the following at this regular meeting of council. Number one, that administration cease enforcement on utility accounts, particularly disconnections of utility accounts and application of interest on overdue accounts for the time being, effective immediately. Administration will request a resolution of council to resume enforcement of payment on utility accounts in accordance with utility policy in the future. And number two, that administration waive the $20 disconnection and $20 reconnection fees in the instance where a business that will be shutting down for an extended period wishes to shut their water off to avoid minimum billing. Administration will request a resolution of council to begin charging these fees again in the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have two motions. Let's start with the first one. Who wants to make that one? Councillor Filchuk.
I'll make the motion that administration cease enforcement on utility accounts, particularly disconnections of utility accounts and application of interest on overdue accounts for the time being, effective immediately. Our administration will request the resolution of council to resume enforcement of payment on utility accounts in accordance with the utility policy in the future.
Okay, do we have a seconder there? Councillor Schramm? Is there any discussion? All in favor then? Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
motion. Oh, we have one more motion. Next motion.
Councillor Jones has his hand up.
Councillor Jones?
Make the motion that administration waive the $20 disconnection and $20 reconnection fees in the business that will be shutting down for an extended period who wishes to shut off their water to avoid minimum billing. Administration will request a resolution of council to begin charging these fees again in the future.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Schramm? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, planning and development, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor Spence, members of council. One item for discussion tonight. It's a semi-detached dwelling for 304 2nd Street West. An application has been received to construct a semi-detached dwelling at 304 2nd Street West. The use has been advertised in the local paper for 1 week, and notice was sent to property owners living within 100 meters. No concerns or questions were raised with the City of Warman. I've included some information as Appendix A, B, C, and D for council's information. The one item I did leave out of my report is the owner will be also installing a separate service connection for each unit, so that in the future they decide to individually title each unit, we will have the ability to control water per unit. The recommendation is that council approve a semi-detached dwelling for 304 2nd Street West.
Okay, so who's going to make that motion? Councillor Peterson?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion to approve the discretionary use for a semi-detached dwelling for 304 2nd Avenue West.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Philipchuk? Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
A motion to file administration reports. Councillor Cooley?
I'll make the motion to file administration reports from March 23rd, 2020 as presented to council.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Schramm? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving down to council and committee reports. Mine is just for your information. Is there any questions from that one? Hearing none?
Just
Just a minute, I do have one.
yeah, sorry. So this is Councillor Beck here. With this here, certainly with this here, like we do see the the resignation from Rick Hales. Obviously, he has certainly been a long-standing member of the library board, so I'd certainly like to thank him for all of his contributions to there. I'm wondering, is there any current steps in terms of advertising for replacement, or how would that be done? And I guess I was just wondering if there was any planning done on that front.
Well, I don't know if Trevor wants to speak to it, but we just got the resignation late last week. So Trevor, did you want to talk to it at all?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we really, since last week hit Wednesdays, I do believe, while we're in our meeting, is when we had that resignation email. So I really don't think we've had a chance to discuss it as a board, and we'll probably have to wait. I would think we'd have to wait until I guess things have changed from where it currently is at.
And as for advertising, I'm sure that they'll start to do that process in the future. They have talked also about recognizing him in some way, but again, because we're in the situation that we're in, everything's kind of on a pause. So we definitely could draft a letter from council and administration, the City of Warman, and thank him for all that he's done in the meantime, if that's council's wish.
Yeah, certainly my thought on that is, recognition. Like he's been a part of the library board there for 40 years, so and was very instrumental in terms of actually helping bring that here. So I think recognition on that front, I think would certainly be worthy.
Okay. Well, Aaron and I will work towards putting something together.
Perfect.
Okay. Do we have a motion to file my report? Whose hands up? Councillor Filchuk?
I'll make the motion to file the mayor's report for March 3rd, 2020 as presented.
Seconder? Councillor Tooley? All in favor? Okay, council round table. Let's start with Councillor Tooley because that's who I can see.
Thanks. Just maybe a quick update of the Prairie Sky Chamber of Commerce and the coronavirus task group or whatever. I had my first meetings with that group actually this morning and then again this afternoon. And the way the meetings are structured is there's a small group that are a part of the committee, which is myself, Jamie with the Chamber of Commerce. We have Josh from the city of Warman, from the city of Martinsville, their economic developer, Dylan Shuchuk, and Doug Ramage, as well as Chelsea Harder are the committee members. So when we met as a committee this morning, we kind of discussed one of the biggest priorities right now that people are hearing coming from the business community, and the biggest concern right now is coming from people who are leasing property, and what it's going to mean to a lot of the businesses to continue making lease payments, especially if they're going to be in a term of maybe a long-term either shutdown or slowdown, and what that's going to mean to their businesses and even the viability of lots of those businesses. So there was a few different actions that came out of that. And then at 2:00 in the afternoon, the group gets back together and they do a conference call for anybody within the business community to be a part of. And I think on that call, there was probably 20 or so folks from the business community. That's it for now.
Well, good. That sounds good that there's something in place to at least hear the current concerns that are out there. I'm hoping that our federal government's going to help the businesses in some way. I don't know what happens with the lease rates. Does anyone out there know how that works?
Well, I mean, effectively right now, the terms of a lot of those leases wouldn't really address a situation like this. So, in a time of, even if a business is shutting their doors down, realistically, the leases would still be in effect. They'd still be responsible for those payments. Now, I know there's a couple of theories out there, or a couple of the incentives out there right now, because the banks are doing deferrals of mortgage payments, some of those kind of means. And I'm not sure what the uptake on that looks like for a lot of that community, for the landlords and the property owners. But I think it is a real, a really big issue for a lot of business owners. If something is going to, be to their detriment, it's going to be some of those fixed costs like that they really have no way of controlling.
Councilor Peterson?
Just so everyone is aware, that any company that's offering deferrals of mortgages or deferrals of leases for equipments and that, all those come at quite an extreme cost, because the business or homeowner, depending on the situation, then is due for that interest gets accrued and add on, and so it ends up like you end up paying interest upon interest upon interest when those payments resume. So those aren't to benefit of business owners or homeowners. So right now, what's out there from the federal government is very hard to qualify for, and what there is there that you can qualify for is hardly anything there. There's really nothing put forward by any level of government to support business at this point.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Peterson, what do you have to talk to us about today?
Did anyone hear what I just said?
Yep. Yeah, I'm talking about your report or your.
Oh, I have nothing further.
Okay. Councillor Jones?
Our Legends Board strat planning session, which was supposed to be Wednesday the 18th, postponed and probably canceled. The next board meeting was canceled, and of course the AGM, which is late April, to date, is still scheduled, but lots of chat already that it's likely to be either postponed or canceled as well. So other than all the meetings getting canceled, I really don't have anything to report.
Councillor Schramm?
Well, I too have had some meetings canceled, so I'm in the same boat there, Brian. And I don't really have anything more to add. I just, I noticed there is a small community in Saskatchewan that did do a emergency for their community, and it was a small community in Saskatchewan. Do we, when is that, when do we have to pull the plug for that? Does the manager know?
Well, actually, we had a conference call this afternoon with the province, and I think maybe we could talk about that later, just how that went. We did talk about that.
Okay, then I'd love to hear that. Other than that, that's all I have to just talk about.
Okay, Councillor Filchuk.
Well, first of all, it's great to hear that Councillor Tooley is working with the business community and some of the challenges there. And I'm hoping that the federal and provincial government, it's just a matter of time before some of those programs roll out. I realize people don't really want to just put the mortgage into the future, as Councillor Peterson mentioned, but also to try and get it waived if no income can be achieved. And it's all sort of tied to being able to get the economy going again, is the jobs that these companies are providing. The only thing I want to mention, I've had meetings canceled too, but I'm just proud of the whole group here, proud of the conversations, the contributions of everyone. It really happened from mayor, council, and staff. We've changed our way of doing things in a quick, efficient way, but in a calm, cool, productive, caring, and fair way that we've discussed issues that are really life-changing in so many ways. So I just want to say, from just noticing that, standing back and seeing the Brady Bunch here on the screen right now, it's great to see us coming together, but all coming from our different vantage points, but really with the same goal of really looking out for our community. So I appreciate all the efforts.
Thank you for that, Gary. Okay, oops.
Sorry, Worship, I do have one last thing, and that is the food bank has noticed an increase at this time, and we'll be facing a little bit of a need there. And so we've noticed an uptake, and just to let everybody know that it is happening, and just for all of us to deal with that.
Thank you. Councillor Beck.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Spence. Yeah, certainly with me, I did make it back from vacation here on the 14th, so I'm still under self-isolation protocols. That being said, I had actually several large meetings canceled here. So this year there was the waste reform in Regina, that there is postponed to the end of September. The municipalities of Saskatchewan or SUMA, their board meeting got canceled. That was planned for the end of next week. And our Laura's site tour here with the city of Warman also got postponed, and obviously Homestyles, which was supposed to take place here this weekend, or this past weekend. So certainly this year you can definitely see the the quick responses and delayed meetings out there in response to COVID. That being said, there is a Municipalities of Saskatchewan COVID-19 panel that is going to be a webinar. This is scheduled for March 25th, and this will start at 11 a.m. And topic on this here is preparing your community. And with this here, if it would be all right to introduce the motion that all of council be offered the opportunity to attend the COVID-19 panel, Preparing Your Community, on March 25th at 11 a.m. So I would like to move that if there would be a seconder.
Okay, well, the seconder for that, I guess that's something that we can easily do. So
yeah.
I don't know if you really need to have a motion for it, but
okay,
all in favor? Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Certainly there, just so you know, there will be members from Crisis Consulting. There's also going to be Sask Public Safety Agency, and there's also going to be Miller Thompson. There's going to be 3 people there: Troy, Barrow, Amy, and also Sean Bryden. So with this year, those are certainly leaders that that can certainly answer some of those COVID questions. Just to echo some of the points there made by Gary, I really do recognize the let's say the quick adaptation by all of our administration and also for council, and certainly reacting quickly to the COVID situation, and really taking our response as prudently as possible. So obviously under this time, it's it's just great to see the administration come together, and also with council in terms of changing up our operations in such a quick manner where things are changing absolutely by the minute. So just just wanted to recognize the the good work being done out there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move down to correspondence. Do we have a motion to file it, please? I'm looking for a hand.
Councillor Schramm has his hand up.
Okay, Councillor Schramm.
I just got to get to it here. Just one second. Now there are motions here on the correspondence. Are you?
That's what I'm asking for.
For
a
all
motion for the first motion. Yes, we'll put a motion on first, then we can discuss it once you get the motion on.
Okay, the council approves the optional contribution towards a travel fund that supports the participation of elected officials from small communities on the FCM National Board of Directors for the amount of $578.55. I so move.
A seconder, please.
Councillor Beck has his hand up.
Councillor Beck. And any discussion?
Mayor, this is Councillor Beck. With this here, certainly this is a fund that our community does benefit from. And I believe that in order for us to actually qualify for this, which I believe your transportation is certainly looked after, we would actually need to approve this. So I do make the recommendation that council support the motion.
Did I see Councillor Schramm with a hand up?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did, Your Worship. I just would like to ask the manager or the financial manager where this gets noted in the budget. Is it under council expenses, mayor expenses, miscellaneous expenses? I just would like to know.
Okay. Manager Smith? Is he still on the call?
I'm going to defer to the finance manager. So maybe if you could ask the question again on what exactly you're looking for.
Well, I'm just wondering where how this gets put into the budget. Is it something that's planned for as miscellaneous, or is it towards the travel of the mayor, or to travel of, because we all have to make, as we've already had in Amanda's report, all of our amounts that have been spent. are put down there. So I guess because it really has been more of the mayor's contributions of getting her to FCM, I'm just wanting to know where does that get put into the budget and how we're doing things.
Amanda?
So all indemnity still go to the indemnity expense account, and any other expenses travel go into that account there. I'll do like we gave you at the end of the year here. I'll do going forward now each quarter a summary of each council and where you are in the budget each quarter now as well, so you can see kind of how that's looking each quarter.
Amanda, I think he's wanting to know where this 578.55, where that comes out of the budget. Where is it logged? Like, it's not logged under my expenses.
I think it's under membership and.
Yes.
It's under membership.
It'd be under the FCM membership amount.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay then. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Okay, next motion, please.
Do you want me to do the next one?
Yes, that'd be great.
That I move that the following correspondence that has been received by council on Monday, March 23rd, 2020, and is to be filed as presented. The RCMP media releases for March 2 to March 16, 2020, FCM travel fund letter, and invoice and let your voice be heard conservative letter. I so move.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Filchuk, is there any questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, city accounts for approval. Motion, please. Councillor Beck, sorry.
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that council approves the city accounts as presented by checks numbered 22526 to 22648 for the total amount of $739,510.48, and that payroll vouchers numbered 10433 to 10499 in the amount of $93,606.54 for March 23rd, 2020.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Tooley, is there any questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. And I'd like to make a motion to go into camera. Or can someone make a motion to go into camera? I can't make that motion.
I can make that motion, Your Worship. I move
Okay.
that we move into camera.
Okay, a seconder for that?
Councillor Beck?
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So how does this work?
So do you want me to kick people out of the meeting?
Thank you. Thank you. See you. Okay. I don't know how it works. So do we shut, like, everybody that's on, like from council administration can stay on?
Okay.
I thought that we should talk about our meeting today.
Adjourn. Councillor Jones and a seconder.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion that Monday, March 23rd, 2020 regular meeting of the council be adjourned.
And seconder, Councillor Tooley. And all in favor? Carried. Adjourned. Thanks, everyone.